That was my appearance. It was a spring. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I really, really appreciate that. I did sort of set this all up a little bit. So just, you know, the Cliff's Notes of my 22nd is former life, actor, producer, waiter, right? So we all got that background. And so we're talking about the intangible it today. And I like to start with the story of my very close personal friend, George Clooney. And by close personal friend, I mean we had a 13-second encounter, of which I've held on to my whole life, and I'm sure that he has as well. I'm pretty sure of it, because here's how the story goes. See, I was driving in Burbank, California, and there was an exit ramp, and I got off in the exit ramp, and I was taking a left-hand turn, so I was stuck at the stoplight, as a red light, and like any good, responsible son, I was talking with my mother while driving, safety first, which, by the way, that was legal in the state of California at the time, so I'm not a bad boy or anything like that. And all of a sudden, there's a convertible that comes up with George Clooney in it, right to my side, and he is looking all Clooney. I mean, just like you would think he would look. Just cool, hair in place, perfect. I mean, tie undone. I mean, I was like, what? Are you serious? Are you real? Are you a robot? What is this? And I wanted a little bit better look at George, my good friend George. And so I rolled down. Do you still roll down a window? You lower the window, right? You lower the window on the other side, and I'm busted. I'm busted. George Clooney sees me do this. And he looks at me and he says, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "Well, I'm talking to my mom, telling her I'm looking at you." And he smiles at me and he says, "Say hello to Mom for me." And he drove off. Yeah, I know. I'm a happily married man. Just got married in October, thank you. Yeah, but even my wife knows that a small piece of my heart drove off in that car that day. It's just the George Clooney intangible it. And it was a moment in my life that was very bittersweet because I realized I did not have it. I do not possess what George Clooney has. And so it was a moment where the whole world of Hollywood, I just had to look at it from a whole different perspective. And really life in general, because I feel like the intangible it goes across all walks of life. But before I could really figure out what it was, I had to figure out why I felt this way. Right? I mean, I had met other celebrities before. Why did George Clooney make me feel like a 13-year-old at a Beatles concert? Why did George Clooney, if you're my age, make me feel like a 13-year-old at a New Kids on the Block concert? Or why, if you're just entering the workforce, did George Clooney make me feel like a 13-year-old at a One Direction concert? Why did we've really progressed a long way, haven't we? Right? Through these. Why did I feel this way? What did he have? And my immediate thought went towards the logical things, right? I thought about talent, right? You have to have talent to have the intangible it. But I don't think you do. I think talent helps. But I don't think you need talent. And my case in point is Daniel Day-Lewis. Did you know that Daniel Day-Lewis is the only actor to win 3 Academy Awards for Best Actor? But if he walked in here right now with a shirt on that said, "I am Daniel Day-Lewis," many of us would struggle to come up with his name. I'm just saying. Talented as all get out, but he does not have it. He does not have the it factor. And he's going to work for the rest of his life, and that's fine, but he does not have the Clooney it. And then I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, it's looks. And again, looks helps. It helps for Clooney, doesn't it? Yeah, helps a little bit. And looks does help, but it's not looks. You know why? Because I waited tables in Hollywood with the most attractive wait staff you will ever see in your life. A-list looks, but they weren't A-listers. And on the flip side of that coin, some A-listers, please, dear God, don't have any relatives here. Steve Buscemi, who's got his own show on HBO right now, Boardwalk Empire, A-list act. He's not Clooney. Doesn't have Clooney looks, but you can make a strong argument that he has it. Well, in this 13-second encounter with George Clooney, which he remembers to this day, I learned 3 things. There were 3 things that George Clooney has that I feel like everybody who has that intangible it factor has. Number 1, was importance. Anybody I've ever met who has met George Clooney or has had an encounter with George Clooney says the same thing. They might not say it the same way, but George Clooney makes you feel like the most important person in the room all the time. He always makes you feel like the most important person in the room. And I hearken back to an acting lesson I once had with, and my poor director, I'm sure I was being horrible in this acting scene, and he just said, stop, stop. Stop trying to be interesting. Be interested in what you are doing as an actor, and that will be interesting to the audience. And the exact same thing is true with importance. If you make other people feel like the most important person in the room on a consistent basis, pretty soon you will be the most important person in the room. Clooney just could have kept driving. He could have said nothing to me, but he made me feel importance. Importance is very important. That was weird. The next thing is positivity, right? People who have the intangible that have a positive quality to them. It's no surprise to me that Jimmy Fallon's taken over the Tonight Show. He's so positive. How many things does he just say? That's so cool, right? Oh, this is so cool. We have the coolest show. It's so cool, right? That's his thing. And Ellen, #1 during daytime. Very, very positive people. Now, I just want to put a little word of warning on this because there is different levels of positivity. So if you're like, hey, I don't smile, it's not my thing. And there are people who do that. I was teaching, or I was working with some people on speaking, on like presentation skills and such. And this guy just didn't smile. But he doesn't smile in real life. He's got this dry sense of humor, and he just doesn't smile. And somebody raised their hand and said, I think you should smile more, Bob. Next time he went up there, it was the most awkward thing in the world. And that's okay if you're not a smiler. That's okay. You might have what I call Harrison Ford positivity. He's not capable of a full smile. He does the half smirk, and we love it. And he's positive in just about everything. I mean, he's really a positive. I mean, Harrison Ford pretty much is Grumpy Cat, right? I mean, we love, you can have that thing. You can have that thing. The other thing I want to say about positivity is some people just, see, the intangible it is about drinking you in. People want to drink you in. And you cannot drink from the fire hose. Right? How many people are just, I'm so positive, everything's happy, I sing that song, happy all the time, because we're happy. And I call that sort of a Richard Simmons positivity. Right? So I'm always alarmed when people are always, there's not even another layer to, no, Richard Simmons has something. We can all agree that Richard Simmons has something, but he does not have the intangible it. There's a little bit of a balance there, which actually leads me to the third thing you need to have the intangible it. And that is just a little bit of mystery. As humans, we are wired perversely. Perversely, we like to be sort of left, wanting a little more, right? If you're enjoying today, that is exactly why. Because speakers are giving you 10 minutes, 15 minutes of our best appetizers you could possibly eat, but you haven't overeaten to the point where you need to unbutton something today, right? It's just been really pleasant. You've had this perfect amount of things today, and you've been left wanting just a little bit more. And that's true in life. I mean, Tom Hanks is a master at mystery. He'll disappear for months. He'll disappear for years sometimes. You know, he'll just be, and he no longer hosts Saturday Night Live. This is a picture of him on Saturday Night Live with Jonah Hill. And he no longer hosts Saturday Night Live. He just shows up. He just shows up, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's Tom Hanks. And then he's gone, and we're like, oh, Tom Hanks, we wanted just a little bit more. He has that mystery element about him, and it's really sort of important. I'll tell you how to put it into play in just a minute. But first, I really want to translate how the intangible it works, not just on the silver screen, but for you, because auditioning, to me, equals speed dating, if you're in that scene right now, equals networking. You need to have the three elements of the intangible it working for you. And the final thing I'm going to say about this is you only get one chance to make the last impression. And that is not a misprint. You know, we're so worried about the first impression, but it's really that good night, everybody. If you leave people with that mystery and wanting just a little bit more. Great story about John Ratzenberger, who was on, remember Cheers from the 80s, right? Great show. And he was the guy who sat at the bar, the know-it-all who didn't really know it all. Few people know this. When he auditioned for Cheers, he auditioned for the part of Norm. And by his own admission, did horribly. He said he absolutely bombed it, and he knew this was the end, and there was no chance he was getting the part. And on his way out the door, he said, you know what this script needs? This script needs a know-it-all who sits at the bar and doesn't know anything. And he left on that note, didn't wait for a response. He left, and the producer said, that's exactly what this script needs. And John Ratzenberger became Cliff Clavin. Now, you can put this into play, but not today. Well, you can, but not here. Because here's a little networking tip for you where you can use all three elements of the intangible it. Be the first person to leave the conversation. If you're networking with somebody, be the first person to leave. Give them a little validation, though. You know what? This has been a great conversation. See how I'm positive, giving this person importance, making them feel like the most important person in the room. But I have to go and just make something up. You have to go to the other side of the room. Who cares? Because even if they see you later that night, they're going to have that perverse feeling. Why did they? Wait, there's something. Mystery, right? It's there. And then you give them your card and say, this has been a great conversation. Really want to pick this up. Whew. Gone. All three elements of the intangible it right there. But now you can't use it on each other today because everybody's going to try to be ending the same thing. So you can't do it. And so you only get one chance. So I only get one chance as well for that last impression. And I have to practice what I preach, of course, right? I have to absolutely practice what I preach. So I'm going to leave you my card on the way out the door, only it's not a card. It's in the form of a workbook. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, my gosh, this guy is passing off a workbook to me. But I want you to know I take professional development seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. So I modeled this workbook after Highlights Magazine. Remember Highlights Magazine? So I just twisted it into sort of an adult version, not a XXX adult. Like it's a more mature version of Highlights Magazine. I want you to grab one on your way out the door, and let's pick up this conversation sometime in the future because you were great. Great audience. Thank you very much, guys.